Hey, this is Heidi. I have a neuroscience blog, and my last two videos were on shame. And I led a workshop yesterday, and shame came up, and I want to just do a little more explaining for people who are interested. And you can look at those other two videos before you watch this, would be better. But one person, when she started to have shame come up, shame is a social emotion. So it's like and I think it's kind of unconscious. It's like disassociation. It's these tools we learn when we're really young. So what we think of it as is basically a nervous system response. It's a way of coping. It's like putting on a pair of armors. It's like putting on a mask. It's something we do to calm down our nervous system or make ourselves feel safer, even though it gets us all caught up in this whole response and gets us caught up in behaviors that we don't want to be engaging in. At its core, when it gets initiated, when that shame program runs in us, it's serving a purpose to protect us. So there's a lot of different layers going on. It's hard to notice when shame is coming up, but just try and think about a time when you were aware of shame. Usually what it does is you find yourself um, feeling isolated from the group, like the group is there and you're a little bit distant. There's somebody between you and the group. And what could be happening, just so you know, is you're having that implicit memory of being shamed when you're younger. It's called a state of shame. And when you look at a state's history, it was born at some point. Let's say it was born when you were 3 years old. And then every time you experience shame in your life, you have that state of shame and it goes dormant and it comes up again. So what's happening in that moment, if you're thinking of a moment when you feel shame, is you're getting the implicit memory of all the times you've been shamed, but implicit memory is not tagged with time. So you're not like, oh, I'm remembering all these other times. You just experience it as kind of the desire to withdraw or feeling emotionally overwhelmed. You're just going to experience it as perception, perceptual, behavioral, sensational, more implicit memory type cues, which is mostly just high arousal without necessarily thoughts associated with it, like, because explicit memory would be more thoughts coming up. So the key when you start to have shame is, number one, you have to ask yourself whether or not it's going to get you kicked out of the tribe. So you don't want to do the work I'm describing if you're going to say something and it's going to get you fired or something. Like let's say you're working in a conservative Christian church and you're gay or something, then you don't want to say that because get you fired. But a lot of times people feel shame about something that when they're a safe environment, they can say it and it's not going to get them kicked out of the tribe. So do this practice with people who you feel safe. And then once you're in that environment, what you would do is you would feel the shame first, because it'll go and hide, it'll go away. So get yourself in a body posture and then try and connect, especially with using eye contact with someone, and try and hold both. And then you want to kind of start, because then you're like playing with your nervous system, and shame is a social emotion. So it really takes, I think, another person, or even better if there's a group of people, if you can focus on one person. This is what we had, a group. If you can focus on one person and then there's other people and they're kind of there and they're kind of representing the society that shamed you in your past, or there's family or school or whatever. And what happens is you're basically kind of showing your brain that the shame programming is an old program, because as you connect in present time, and if you're doing it right, there'll be like a burning sensation in a way. You'll feel both the emotion coming up and you'll also feel connected with the person. You'll kind of be going in and out between two things. And you definitely have to have a certain level of social engagement and curiosity to do what I'm describing, but it is so magical. You can, if it's like, when you have something in your nervous system that's kind of tripping you up, I say you have to go into the little mechanical clockwork. You have to go into the gears to actually change the watch. And it's the memory, especially like explicit and implicit memory. It's the implicit memory that where you get that little tiny screwdriver and you start to kind of click it and you actually turn something and then it'll unlock it. And if you're doing this thing where you're traveling in time, you're remembering the moments you were in shame and then you're in present moment, and there has to be a feeling. So when you have the shame, the cool thing is if you can create an environment where you can kind of burn through it. And shame was something you chose. I said this in my other video, but I'm just going to repeat it. you chose it. It was so brilliant when you were a kid. It made you blame yourself, and then you could bond, have attachment with your caregiver, and it was brilliant then. But then, as an adult, you don't need to do that same programming. So you can just put that aside. And when you have feelings of anger or hate, you can know, oh gosh, those are really important emotions. Those emotions show me that there's something in my environment. It's an environmental failure, and something needs to change. So your emotions are good. They're signs that something different needs to change. And if you're having a mechanism kind of block the expression of them, which shame can do, this is just a suggestion to burn through it. So you're feeling the emotion, you're burning it, you're feeling the emotion from the past. And I think the hardest thing is to not connect too much with the person. Stay in the shame, and even kind of, I had a person kind of be in a chair and kind of back away and turn their back to us, because that's what their nervous system was doing. And then I had everyone in the group say, we see you're leaving and we are here. We see you're leaving and we are here. We see you're leaving and we are here. And then we said, we see you're leaving and we care. We see you're leaving and we care. And what we're kind of having her do is, she's being in that kind of fight flight where she's fleeing and she's in the shame, but she also knows that she's in a safe environment, people who care about her. And it's reprogramming this story about how I need to shame myself and how I need to, and what the person would do is they would slowly turn their chair around when they're ready, and then they would make eye contact, just maybe with one person, and then just burn the shame, try and really stay present with it, and feel the love and the attunement and the care of, like I've done groups or someone you trust or therapist, and then touch if it's possible, give a hug, do some kind of thing to help it come to a conclusion. And if you're doing it in a group, when the person's ready, I have everyone in the group to say like how that was relevant to them, because when people see another person make themselves vulnerable, it oftentimes affects someone else. And if you're interested in doing a group, message me, because I just love doing group work. So that's just a little bit about shame, and I'll tell more about it another time. So thanks for listening.